Tell somebody, don't stop dreaming. Tell your neighbor, don't stop dreaming. Tell your neighbor, don't stop dreaming. You're almost there. You're almost there. You're almost there if you just hold on. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. Don't stop dreaming. God has brought you a mighty, mighty long way. And it looks like I've made it. Look at somebody and tell them, it looks like I've made it. Looks like I have made it. Ushers, you are so wonderful. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you so much for being on your post. Somebody holler, looks like I've made it. Somebody look at your neighbor and says, looks like I've made it. Oh, last week we were upset because we've been down here 2 years. And the cupbearer forgot all about us. Been here 2 years. Told him and the chief baker what was going to happen. And exactly what I told him was going to happen, happened. Now the cupbearer, he's been put back in his old position. And when he got up there, Sister Peggy, seemed like he forgot all about me. And I found out, it's not if I'm going to go through, it's how do I handle it while I'm going. Somebody missed that. It's not if I'm going to go through, it's how do I handle it while I'm going. How do I handle the prison position while I'm on my way to the palace place? How do I handle the lockup? How do I handle the entanglement? How do I handle the frustrations that life is going to throw my way while I'm making it from my location to my destination? How do I go through the process? Some of you are going through the process of being who God is calling you to be, and you found that the process gets messy. You find that there are problems in the process. You find that there are people in the process who show you one thing but mean another thing. You find that in the process there are going to be some ups and there are going to be some downs, because God told you you were on your way to the palace, but he never told you what you had to go through to get there. And you wonder, Sister Tish, God, why you didn't show me that? He didn't show you because had he shown you, you never would have gone. Look at your neighbor and say, I wouldn't have gone. No, I'm not going. No, ain't no different direction. No shortcuts, Reverend Kimball. You got to go through it. You got to go through it. And he's going through the process. And in the process, it seems like God forgot him. Isn't it a rough feeling to know God has something on your life, but when you're on your way to getting that something, somewhere along the way it feels like God dropped out? But I got to keep, come on, Tish, and preach this with me. I got to keep trusting. I got to keep believing. I got to keep going, because I'm almost there. Y'all, 13 years later, from when he got the dream to the dream becoming a reality, 13 years later, it looks like I made it. But the problems of the process will mess you up when you make it, if you try to sweep the problems under the rug and not deal with them. Here we are, Tim, 13 years later. And we see Joseph talking to us, telling us, don't stop dreaming, because it looks like you've made it. Looks like you've made it. But even when you, quote make it, you still have to deal, watch this, not with where you are, but deal with what's in you. Because if you don't deal with what's in you, it'll mess up where you are. You will make it to the palace and be pitiful because you haven't dealt with what's on the inside. Tell your neighbor, I'm going to make it to the palace. I ain't going to be pitiful. It looks like we've made it. I want to give you something to think about next. Something to think. I'm not even going to give you a thesis statement today. I'm just going to ask some questions that I want you to answer in your heart, in your mind. Think about it when you go home. Marinate on it and see how it affects you. Something to think about. Next, what is holding you hostage? What is holding you hostage? Next, what pain keeps causing you problems? What pain keeps causing you problems? Next, how long will you fake it because you don't want to face it? How long will you fake it because you ain't ready to face it? Next, God is trying to bring you through it. How long are you going to stay in it? Joseph makes it to the palace. Last week, Pharaoh had his dreams, and he told Joseph about the dreams because the chief cupbearer told Pharaoh that there's a fellow down there that can interpret the dreams. And then Joseph, Pharaoh calls for Joseph. Remember, the Bible says that he had to shave. He had to get spiffy. He had to go before the king because you can't go before the king looking like anything. And he told us we only got one chance to make a first impression. So he went before the king, and the king told him what his dream was, and he told the king exactly what's going to happen. He said, I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis. He said, you're going to have 7 years of everything you want and 7 years of famish. The famish is coming, but while we're in overflow, we need to take 1/5 of everything from the overflow and put it in the rainy day, because the rainy day is coming. I don't know who I'm talking to, but some of us right now are in overflow, but the Lord is saying you got to be prepared for when the rainy day comes. You got a whole lot of friends right now. You need to find your one that's your real friend and put them on the side. Because them fake ones going to show themselves sooner or later. And you're going to need somebody that you can depend on. And if you ain't got one down here, I know somebody you can call. His name is Jesus. So you're going to have 7 years of everything that you want. Fat King, everything's going to be good. Then we're going to have 7 years of fatness, right? All right. So we're going to go all over Genesis chapter 41 and 42. So just be ready to turn your pages or look on the screen, whichever one is easier. All right. So I gave you what you had to think about. Genesis chapter 41, verses 41 through 43. Pharaoh says to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in his fine linen clothing and hung a gold chain around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride in the chariots reserved for his second in command. And wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, kneel down. So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt. Whew. He comes from the pit all the way to the palace, believing and trusting in God. 13 years later, he makes it to the palace. The road wasn't easy, but he made it. He had some detours along the way, but he made it. He had to plead and cry. His heart was broken. He shed some tears, but he made it. Sometimes he might have wanted to give up, but he made it. I'm looking at about 17 of y'all in here who can testify. You don't know what I've been through because I don't look like where I come from. And if I had the time to tell you, I'd give you a testimony that would blow your mind. All I'm going to say is I made it. And because I made it, and because I know who is the reason that I made it, excuse me while I give him about 15 seconds of praise for bringing me up the rough side of the mountain, bringing me to the top of the mountain. But God, I thank you for the valley, because I learned in the valley that you are a company keeper. I learned in the valley that you are a way maker. I learned in the valley that you are a friend when I was friendless. Somebody ought to just tell God, thank you for my valleys. From Daniel's, he made it. And when you make it, next, you will find a change has come over me. Sister Haywood sang that song and the chandeliers would start swaying. I would sing it if she wasn't here, but I can't do her no justice, so I'm just going to be quiet. A change has come over me. When you walk in the Lord's purpose, you can testify. A change has come over me. I'm not the same as I used to be. I don't do what I used to do. I don't look how I look. I know you say I look different because a change has come. Oh, what used to excite me don't excite me anymore. What used to didn't excite me, I wake up in the morning now excited. Why? Because I woke up with expectations, expecting God to bless me, expecting God to bring me out, expecting to have a good day, expecting to feel good in my body, expecting to have overflow, expecting to come out happy, expecting to land, expecting to walk in my authority, expecting to have my head up high. Is there anybody here that woke up this morning with some expectations, expecting God to show up at church and pick somebody up and bring somebody out? Give 3 people a high five and tell them a change has come over me. Now I expect to be what God said I can be. I expect to have what God says I can have. I expect to walk where God says I can walk. All the folk with expectations, just give God some praise. She was saying that part. I'm not what I used to be. Not who I used to be. I'm not the same thing. Thank God. Thank God. This is, hey, when you say Jesus is my consolator, In times of trouble, then you hit that note. Whoa, change. And the choir, I'm so glad he changed me. A wonderful change has come. Listen at you. Oh, wonderful change has come. When God blesses you, he changes you. Watch this. Everything about Joseph changed. Watch this next. God will change. Next, your authority. He will change your authority. Verse 41, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Next, he will change your appearance. He says, I put a ring on his finger and dressed him in fine linen cloth and hung a gold chain around his neck. He says next, then he'll change your rival. Gave him a chariot. Oh, shucks. While ago he arrived by running from Potiphar's wife. But God said, I'm not through with you. I didn't make you to arrive running. I made you to arrive in the chariot. Somebody need to give your neighbor a high five and tell him, I'm waiting on my chariot, baby. You laughing at me now because of the way that I got here. But I'm going to keep on coming. And if you keep on watching, eventually how I got here is going to change. Because my God, who's bringing me here, has all power in his hand. Then the last thing he does is changes his name. Zaphaneth-Paneah, which means God speaks. Next, God speaks and lives. He changed him. Changed his authority. Changed his appearance. Changed his arrival. Changed his name. Watch this. Everything, Delilah, that God changed, that Pharaoh changed, was outside of him. Everything that Pharaoh changed was outside of him. His authority, his appearance, his arrival, his name. Everything that was outside of him. Because man can change what's outside of you. Only you and God can change what's inside. Because, Cat, with everything that God changed, it looks like he's made it. But he's still got some issues that he's got to deal with. Matters of the heart. Because he's still carrying some battle scars from the 13-year battle, the 13-year journey that he'd had to go through. He's still carrying some insecurities. It looks good. He got a room in the palace. He got a chariot. He got some gold necklaces and rings. He got a new name. He got authority. It looks good. But until you get right on the inside, everything on the outside is going to fall short. I wish I had somebody that knows what it's like to look like you got it all together, to look like you got everything you want, to look like everything is all right. Folk pass by your house, they see your 3,200 square feet, and they think everything is good. What they don't realize is inside the 3,200 square feet, you got some battles on the inside that you fight inside. Somebody holler, I'm trying to get it together. I'm trying. I'm sick of coming to church with a mask on because this is a charade after a masquerade party. Coming here acting like I got it all together when every day I struggle with one battle after the other. And I'm tired of being tired. Watch this. Genesis 42, verses 21 through 26. Now, when we get to Genesis 42, we're now in the second years, 7 years. And we have the famine that is now taking over the land. Joseph is in charge of Egypt. Okay? His brothers, life just had it so set. That Sister Hayden, his brothers, what's the way I can explain it? District, for lack of a better word, was found within the providence that he was over. Right? So he's like the president of that district, right? And his brothers had to go through his office to get their needs met. You missed that. His brothers, who sold him into slavery after they threw him in the pit, had to go through his presence to get their substance. Don't ever think that God forgets what people do to you, because the Lord will make the same ones that threw you out have to come through you to get what they need. Oh, I wish I had somebody right there that would give God a hand clap of praise. Look, we fast forward. Go home and read the rest of chapter 21. And read the rest of 41 and 42. Speaking among themselves, his brothers, they said, clearly, we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish while he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we are in this trouble. Watch this. Didn't I tell you not to sin against that boy? Reuben said, you remember Reuben? Way back about 6 weeks ago, Reuben said, no, don't kill him. Don't do that. That's our brother. Don't do that. But you wouldn't listen. Reuben said, didn't I? He probably was one of them that was just sitting back, Sister Cobb, and saying, I don't want to be the one to say I told you so. But I told you so. Watch this. Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Not only did God change his name, he changed his language. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. I got 12 minutes. There's a whole lot on that bone. Joseph then ordered, watch this, his servant to feed the men's sack, fill the men's sack with grain. But he also, watch this, gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment. At the top of his sack, he also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded their donkey with grain and headed home. The ones who treat you bad, God expects you to treat them good. Somebody should have just took off running around the building right there, because that was a word for your deliverance right there. Because you've been fighting folks that's fighting you. Stop fighting them and start loving on them. Oh, stop fighting them and start loving on them. Look at your neighbor and say, stop fighting and start loving. Stop fighting and start loving, because love will do one or two things. It'll either change them or it'll chase them away. I wish I had a witness right there that would give me a high five. It will either change them or it will chase them away. But as long as you fight them, you don't have to keep fighting, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to fight them, but you got to have enough God in you to say, I shall not fight you. I'm going to love you and let God fight my battles for me. I wish I had a friend in here. Next, they will remember and they will regret. They remembered how they treated their brother 12 years ago. Watch this. They didn't know he was brother, but they knew they had a brother that they mistreated. They didn't know that was him. They didn't know who that was, but they knew what they had done. When you're wrong, you know you're wrong. Let's just be real. It's just a few of us in here. How many of us can testify I was wrong and I know I was wrong? I knew I was wrong when I walked in there. I walked in there with the purpose of being wrong. Wasn't nothing right about me showing up there. I showed up there to do wrong. And the more wrong I did, the wronger I got. They knew they were wrong. And they didn't do better. They will remember and they will regret. Watch this. Next, they may get by, but they won't get away. Not if your God is real. God will take care of you. God will remember what he promised you. And his promise will come to fruition if you just hang in there and don't give up. Let me finish. Let me hurry up. Finish this. I got 8 minutes. Oh, watch this. Watch this. The Bible says, round about verse 24, he turned away from them and began to weep. He couldn't rejoice in his present palace position because he was thinking about his past brother's problems. He could not say thank you for right now because he had not dealt with 13 years ago. It's coming up again. It's coming up again. It's coming up again. And there's no hurt like hurt from people that should have helped. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never. That's a lie. Because if those words come from the right people in the right position, those words can break you if you don't deal with it. I got about 10 of y'all in here right now. God is trying to open doors for you, and you won't even walk through them because you're too busy looking back at doors that have been closed behind you and people who told you you could not be what God said you could be. And you can't even get excited with what God is doing for you because you're still dealing with the hurt of what somebody did to you. Tell your neighbor, I got to deal with what somebody to me so I can look forward for what God gonna do through me. I wish I had somebody to give God some praise and say, it's taking a little while. They broke my heart. They made me cry. They made me I almost lost my mind. I almost gave up. I almost quit. I almost threw in the towel. I almost said I ain't going back down there no more. But every day I woke up, I kept on saying, Lord, thank you for another day, Sister Kimball. Thank you for bringing me through another one. Thank you for making it and help me deal with what I got to deal with. Because if I don't deal with it, it's going to deal with me. Brother Ailey, so he finally lets it go. Next, those that turned against you will also turn against each other. Next, sometimes you have to let it go. He broke down in the presence of his brothers with all of the riches of Pharaoh around him. He could not vast in the riches around him because he had not dealt with the regret that was inside of him. God wants to bless you, but he can't bless you like he want to bless you because you holding on to some pain that somebody gave to you. You holding on to that thought that you'll never make it because they said you were a nobody. You're holding on to the fact that the ones who should have loved you the most are the ones who treated you the worst. You holding on to memories, mighty memories, heartbreaking memories. And every day of your life, you try to destroy something that's destroying you. And Joseph teaches us, sometimes you just gotta let it go. You got to understand that you can't make people like you no more than they gonna like you. Sometimes you just got to let it go. Because you can't make people appreciate you no more than they appreciate you. Sometimes you just got to let it go. Look at your neighbor and say, stop trying to explain it to them. They're not going to understand. They don't want to understand. They don't want to hear. They don't want to see you in a different light. They want to see you as a loser. But you can tell them, I may have lost, but that don't make me a loser. Because I'm a winner, baby. I'm a winner because I'm on the Lord's team and we always win. I wish I had somebody that know you on the winning team that would give God some praise and just holler, I got to let it go. I got to let it go. I got to let it go. I can't let it keep me. I can't let it stop me. I can't let it block me. I can't let it tear me down no more. I got a whole chariot right there. And I'm crying. Because you 10 showed up. And going to lose another. You were my brothers. Anybody was supposed to help me. It should have been. It should have been you. You are my church family. Anybody was supposed to be praying for me. It should have been you. We sing in the choir together. If anybody should not have been spreading rumors about me, it should have been. I'm going to give you a nugget right here. You can take this and use it however you want to use it. Stop trying to make people who they ain't. Accept people for who they is. Let it go. He broke down because if he didn't deal with it, it was going to deal with him. Next, don't let the blessings of your today be soured by the battles of your yesterday. Don't let what God is doing with you today be stopped by what somebody did to you yesterday. Y'all, we all got a testimony. We all got a story to tell. And what we didn't realize then that we can realize now is that people who mistreat us in the story are a valuable part of the story. Because God allows you to go through that, not so it can kill you, but so he can help it shape you and help it make you better for where you are going. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm only getting better. This is the last point, and we'll finish this on next week. This is the last point I want you to see. Joseph secretly gave them their money back. And he also gave them extra blessings. Why? Because in spite of how they treated him, they're still my brothers. And at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for how somebody treats me. I'm responsible for how I treat somebody. And I also found out in my life, Sister Cobb, is that I show people how I expect to be treated by the way that I treat them. Joseph teaches us something, Reverend Kimball. He says to us, next, I cannot treat you like you've treated me. Because in spite of the way you've treated me, I've got a God that has taken care of me. And I've decided to put my eyes on the Lord. And everything that the Lord has done for me and how the Lord has blessed me and what the Lord has brought me through, I've decided to just give God praise and glory. And when I give God praise and glory, it's more than just coming to church, clapping my hands, waving my hands, standing on my feet. I also give God praise and glory with how I treat my brothers and my sisters. So when I treat somebody right that has treated me wrong, God gets the glory from your story. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody in here needs to testify. God's going to get the glory from my story. God's going to be able to get the glory from what I've gone through in my life. Come on, Calvary, put your hands together and give God some praise. We done. Doors of the church are open.